Poetry Attack was created nearly 25 years ago. That was long before a lot of you were on this planet. I'm not good in math, but I can tell you that. Thanks to generous gifts of Margaret and Henry C. Bourne and Bruce McEver, those gifts do more than keep the lights on, I can promise you that. They've made it possible to put on events like this, and in fact, Poetry at Tech in these 25 years has brought more than 450 poets to Georgia Tech. 450 poets. And not just readings, but workshops out in the community. These poets have visited schools. It's been amazing, and over the years that I've been here, I have been a witness to that, and it's pretty cool to see the impact, and once again, to bring up that word, community building through the arts, but to see community literally being built around poetry and what these gifts have done. The impact of these gifts is really no small thing. But tonight, as I mentioned, we welcome back Bruce McEver. Bruce is one of the founders of the feast here, guys. And not only that, he's the founder of Berkshire Capital, an investment banking firm. This man has traveled the world again and again, and many of his poems document those travels and his search for enlightenment along the way. You'll hear tonight that Bruce's journey has been filled with great loss, great sadness following the sudden passing of his first wife, Georgia. But you'll also come to find out that Bruce's journey has been filled with great joy as well, great adventure, poems of redemption. And Bruce doesn't write broken-hearted poems. You'll see that. You'll see that tonight. He writes about his experience with honesty and with great clarity. Bruce is the author of 3 full-length collection of poems, including Scaring Up the Morning and Like Lesser Gods. And he's also written a best-selling memoir called Many Paths. Some of you might have gotten a free copy of that just outside earlier. All those books are published by C&R Press. Another important detail about Bruce is that, well, he just celebrated his 80th birthday. 80th birthday. But that's not the most important part. He knows how to throw one hell of a birthday party. Everyone, friends, let's please welcome Bruce McEver to Poetry at Tech.
Travis, you're not supposed to tell all the details. Anyway, thank you, Travis, and thank you, Victoria, for keeping Poetry at Tech going. This is very important. Thank you for the faculty and staff of Georgia Tech to keep this going. This is a great institution. It's got a spirit like no other. It's also, as you will find out, it is also one where you will be so grateful when you get out of this institution. I was. It was one of the great days of my life. But anyway, that's why it's so memorable. That's why the alumni are so good. And that's why this place really ticks. There's a hell of engineers around here. Anyway, Travis has told you something about my life. When I was here, we really didn't have poetry electives. There was just nothing here, and so that's one of the reasons that I started this, was to give some poetry to the class. It's become a much kinder and gentler place since then, through the efforts of a lot of people. There was also no student center. When I was on the student council, I worked on the committee with James Dull, to build a student center, to look at student centers. We went all over the Southeast and we started the first student center. So anyway, this is incredible. So enjoy. Anyway, I went to New York after I got out of the Navy and business school to get a couple of years of experience. And I sort of stayed maybe too long. I became a road warrior. And too bad they didn't invent Zoom sooner, but anyway. This is a poem reflecting on that. It's called On the Road. I love early mornings in a new hotel, traveling west and up on East Coast time, before room service starts delivery, searching the lobby or even down in the kitchen for coffee, to greet the dawn with the night clerk starting his wake-up calls. I find a paper from the bundle by the revolving door and a town map from a tourist rack to discover where I am and what's happening, having missed the previous day, sequestered with clients in a windowless conference room. I hardly notice the busboy picking up last night's glasses and emptying the ashtrays to start the lobby over with a worn smile by 7. I began to feel oddly comfortable before the stir of day, unhurried and almost at home in the contrived elegance of overstuffed couches, old marble, and mirrors. I wonder just how much of my life has been spent, just like my father's, in rented rooms and strange beds, with our precious time, neatly folded and packed into suitcases and carried between the unforgiving schedules of people and planes. I've lived a long time in New York City, probably longer than I did in Atlanta. Actually, I grew up here, but there are some real characters in New York City. Patricia and others can attest. There are a lot of hustlers, and this is one of those characters, and they're all over and just precious people. It's part of the culture there. This is called the Tao of the Bubble Man. The Bubble Man and his abettor perform on the Band Shells Plaza in Central Park, festooned all around by spring azaleas. They try to gather passerbys and conjure the crowd by floating bulbous bubbles pulled from a plastic pot of suds by dipping a limp string hung like a lasso between 2 bamboo sticks and hoisting it skyward. "Hey kids," he croons, "look at this." And he sends another rainbowed orb to float before popping ignominiously, mid-ascent, no takers. Dejected, he yanks at the half-skewed bill of his Yankees baseball cap and slumps for a shared beer with his buddy on a bench, and while counting the scanty proceeds confides, "Cheap little motherfuckers." Alas, more clients. Parading up the Elm Walk, a troop of new mothers out for exercise with their jogging strollers. Her pram in the vanguard, their trainer in pink tights, kicks, squats, twists, and turns, urging tighter tummies, girls. High-stepping like the Rockettes, they circle the Bubble Man and cheer him in unison back into action. More bubbles, please. Pretty bubbles in the air. So, as Travis said, I had a real tragedy in my life one time, and that sort of got me to thinking and sent me to divinity school. And I commuted up to Boston for 4 years. I could only go 2 days a week because I was running the company, and went there, and I got, Boston sort of winters are sort of rainy, cold and gray anyway. So I was feeling a little down and bought some tulips one night and put them on my table. Tulips surprised me like a yellow sunrise, igniting from my coffee table, bought last night in a cold rain. They stand radiant in a tall vase, leaning toward the window, savoring the morning light. How perfectly they spill with each leaf folded to embrace the tumbler's edge. Flown from Holland's field where we biked last spring between the astounding rolls of color. They were the fancy of Turkish sultans, gifted to Dutch botanists who hybridized them to become dazzling. Tulip mania became endemic. Then the deluded traded their homes for a single bulb. Today it's big business, this bounty of bulbs, fresh cut and air expressed around the world. These bright missionaries come to spread through impersonal cities, come to spread joy through impersonal cities, come to rouse us from our comfortable beds and wake us from our morning slow. Well, sort of reminds me of AI stock, tulip bulbs. It's funny how the world goes around. So now I'm, as Travis announced, I'm a snowbird. I go back and forth between Naples, Florida, and Salisbury, Connecticut. And I don't know why I didn't do that earlier in life, but anyway. There's a place outside of Naples. I was looking for some nature. As Tracy Taku knows, I was the nature counselor of the Bird Adams Boy Scout camp when I was here, and just never left that sort of love of the outdoors. Sort of has always stuck with me. And so there's a great place outside of Naples called Corkscrew Swamp. And if you've never been there, you should go there because it's one of the last old-growth forests. There are only about 6 or 7 in this country. This is a cypress forest. It's 13,000 acres. And it's also famous because it was the killing fields where they shot birds for the plumes for ladies' hats. And at the turn of the century, the world really protested and started the Audubon Society. And so it's where the Audubon Society started. So this is called Corkscrew Swamp. And there's something really primeval if you walk into this thing. It overcomes you. Trusting a weathered boardwalk, we cross a sawgrass prairie into the swamp, initialed by thin, then ever thickening trunks of old-growth cypress forest, into its inner sanctum of centennial trees. Clean black waters mirror these, flooding this forest floor, floating lettuce-like plants, spawning insects, reptiles, and fish. The trees' conical bases are surrounded by gnarly knees and taper out of the dark waters into twisted and moss-draped garden tops, habitats for vermilions and orchids. It is still, except for our footsteps, betraying our prodigal presence, sidling into this enigmatic place from where mankind emerged, before escaping to the trees and coming down on the surrounding savanna after we could stand up and run. In this column cathedral, something urges us on. And what is watching? Be still and listen. A squawk of an egret or the call of a cormorant. Over there on the muddy shore, are those downed logs? On second glance, it's an ancient reptile blending with the bank. One of the alligators that lorded here before we came down from the trees. It's bigger than us, and when motivated, can move faster. Now it watches us invade its territory, polite only because we are standing here on this boardwalk, lucky. And we occasionally in the summer, my partner Ann is on the board of the Aspen Institute, and we go out to this beautiful place with these mountains and, lofty thoughts, and that's where the Ideas Festival is, and they think of all these, how we're going to solve the environmental dilemma. But anyway, but also nature is sort of telling us something. And so this poem is about that. It's called Where the Wind Writes with the Grasses. In the high plains, the wind writes with prairie grasses, moving them like green waves. What message comes from those noble peaks, sitting Buddha-like, meditating in snow-capped stupas? Bright sun warms the stony crags, causing invisible spiraling thermals. Both buzzards and eagles ride, while these breezes quake the aspen, swaying clumps of sunflowers and bunches of blue lupine. As the planet soaks in the sun, the melt runs from the steep snowy fields, divided down man's channels, to quench the valley through a patchwork of ranches spread over undulating hills and fills a mirroring reservoir. Down valley, an airship glints silver, taking off the tarmac from cities we escaped, where today it breaks over 100. And yet all seems in balance in this place. I breathe in deeply the thin mountain air and rejoice with being with you here today. Below, an elk herd mingles with the surrounding pasture with a scatter of horses, content in this day, grazing. The Taoists believe that the world is in order, and it stays in order, and it'll rebalance itself. And it's us that's out of balance, and we got to get in sync with the way. So anyway, the way is in front of us. We live on a little bay in Naples, and I love watching the birds there. It's a real show at night. They fly into an island they roost in, and all different types, ibis and egrets and all kind of birds. In the day, they hunt up and down the bay. And one of my favorite are the pelicans. And this is called Ode to Pelicans. Survivors of the Jurassic extinction, they soar wingman to wingman in formation over the channel, where this morning a bay breeze diffuses sunrise over shallow waves. They look like flying dinosaurs, dive bombers. They soon spot their prey, and they peel off and plunge headfirst to stun the fish, scooping them up and flip a squiggly breakfast into their yellow pouches. The only species to stun their victims, they're off again for another run, working together over the entire span of the channel between the houses and canal banks. Evolution's lab gave them an impact-resistant skull and membrane eye coverings to survive their high dive act. They follow the fish schools in and out of our bay with the morning tide. As they have practiced before this development of dredged rock, shells, and mud clawed into their mangrove swamps and forced their rookeries further south. They are older than we, and in them we could learn how the world rebalances. Thank you all.